If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
West Tigers podcast, episode 393, joined by Nick, Steve and Declan. A little bit different Wednesday night. We're going to preview the game on Friday afternoon. We'll do a pod, give our listeners something to chew over on the weekend with the Monday game in play, Easter Monday game against Parramatta. It's been we've got 6 weeks, Declan, to talk about the football, and Gary was so happy talking football alone, but of course, being the Tigers, it's all changed.
I know the season was just going like too well in terms of staying at the story, staying at in our 360. All we had to really talk about was Campbellton and if that was going to get an upgrade. And then it was too good to be true. And now slowly but surely it's all kind of went back to kind of regular programming in terms of being in the media, and it looks like we've really it's an intense discussion as well. So plenty to talk about.
Nick, I was just speaking to you a minute ago, and I think we used the word it's exhausting because it just feels like we've been down here before, just if you get caught up in reading the whole media cycle of this.
It's very exhausting, Eddie. And like I was saying to you yesterday, I was everywhere I turned. I was at work and I was trying to get work done, but my phone was just non-stop, just person after person, mate after mate, just messaging about the situation or wanting to have a chat about it and put in their 2 cents worth. And then, I'd have a look on social media. It was Facebook, Instagram, X, it was all over the press. And then I got home, it was on the news. Like, it was just so tiring. And it still is. To me, it feels like a bomb's gone off, but the shrapnel is just continuing to expand across, the whole West Tigers sort of area. It's just so much destruction and damage being caused. It'd be interesting to see what happens over the coming week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? But what a mess.
Nick, did you say your mates are ringing one after another? What did you do for the other 55 minutes in the hour?
That's very funny, Steve, and I'm actually going to talk about workplace harassment a little bit later. I got a bone to pick with you and Gary, but we'll continue that one later. Thanks, Steve. Good chat.
I'm just going to do a little timeline, Declan, because I was on Monday night with Steve and Gary and Joel. And, I probably said a few things that I probably don't. Declan's laughing while I try and say this. I probably said a few things that I don't believe in now, but it was such a fluid situation where it's changing sort of every day. So just from our last podcast, just for context, on Monday night, this has happened. So by Tuesday midday, it was in the media that Galvin wasn't going to be picked on for the side on the weekend, and that senior players had come to Benji and wanted him not picked in the side. We'd seen a couple of senior guys put some things on social media. Then there was a statement from Galvin and his dad, or quotes in the paper, or just the whole commentary about it. Tigers probably received a lot of praise initially, and then today it's sort of turned a little bit. But where do you see things at the moment in terms of the narrative, Declan? It's very interesting listening to the media. It seems like both sides trying to control the narrative.
Honestly, I haven't even really fully processed this whole thing. Like, I still can't imagine Galvin playing for another team or leaving. Like, obviously he is leaving and that's imminent. Like, whether it's to next week, end of the season, or at the end of 2026, that's definitely going to happen. But I just can't really imagine him in another jersey yet. In terms of the media narrative, it's a really interesting one because we discussed today that, I think the club did a really, really good job of getting in the front foot. That's what I thought they did anyway, just to try and control that narrative. And then obviously the kind of social media post from the players. I think the Luai one was kind of play on because it wasn't directed at Galvin in a way that was really obvious, but the Taruva one was a little bit silly because you could only really interpret that one way. It was, having a shot at him quite clearly. In terms of the the kind of workplace bullying part of it. I think that we all kind of knew that Isaac Moses was eventually going to like lead him down that road. I think even if the players didn't post that, I think the fact that they would have the fact that he's playing reserve grade and the kind of speculation that he didn't get on with Luai, I think they would have went off that anyway. But I think the players just doing it is just kind of like put a bit more like spotlight on it. But in terms of I don't know, like from like because I'm like Nick as well. Like I was trying to like on Monday just stay off my phone for as long as possible, just to try and get some work done. Then it just absolutely blew up. I just couldn't stay off the socials. And from what I've seen, I think most people, I would say like 70-30 are kind of on the Tigers like side of this one, whether they like don't like Isaac Moses or like they're just sick of these like player contract dramas. I'm not sure, but even now, like watching NRL 360, like obviously you've got the like Sydney Morning Herald people kind of more leaning towards Galvin, but I reckon it's still a little bit in our favour, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll dive into that soon. But Nick, I just wanted to read what I think has been the playbook from his manager from the very start. So apparently last Thursday, that's when they met with Shane Richardson, and Isaac Moses comes in with a list of 7 grievances against the coach. I think Richo cut him off after about 2 and said, "I've heard enough." Says we're not going to review the offer. And then you plant that story on Monday about Benji's coaching being the reason why Galvin feels he can't develop and wants to leave. So then you get the reaction that sort of article would bring, which is senior players reacting both on social media and in terms of meeting with the coach and dropping him from the side. You get the sort of fluffy statement released by Galvin, and then the next day they jump into the bullying / let's get the RLPA involved because the Tigers are treating him poorly. It just seems like, and this was what Braith was onto on the 360. I know he's another player manager, but he was like, this is the textbook playbook for Isaac Moses when he wants to get someone out of a club early just to cause maximum carnage.
Yeah, well, I mean, Isaac Moses has been around for a long time, right? So he knows the avenues that are probably required to fast track an exit, which is kind of sad. It might not be the ethical way to do it. I guess he's probably doing what he can for his client. He probably thinks there's better opportunities out there for his client ASAP. And I guess, from his point of view, he thinks he's doing the right thing, getting Lockie out of his contract for the next 18 months or whatever it is. But yeah, ethical, unethical, it's probably not. Did the Tigers players do the right thing by posting on socials? Probably not. Should someone or Richo have told them to stay off? Probably. Yeah, there's a lot of acting on emotion here from everybody, from all parts, from the players, from the, I guess from the club in general. It's really interesting, right? I heard a story that apparently, I don't know how true it is. I think it might have been a pod I was listening to today on the way home, that apparently Galvin requested a release in the preseason of 2024 before he even played last season, which is really odd. Like, I don't get that. Like, there must have been something grossly wrong with his happiness with the club.
Yeah, I think as soon as we signed like Latu Fainu and Jerome Luai and Bud Sullivan, I think that's where the talk of the release going into the 2024 preseason started, because he saw himself like log jam behind all those people. And then, like, from my understanding, like the club talked to him, and then like there was also concerns that the club like wanted to play him in the back row, but he was like determined that he was only going to play 6. So that was another thing. But all that kind of got settled, and he ended up getting picked. So it seemed all like rosy daisy until obviously he like asked for the release like after the Dragons game last year. But yeah, I think this has just been like a long time coming, and it's actually not the first time that we've heard that he's had a problem with the coach. I think it's just materialized now because it's undeniable now that he doesn't think that Benji can coach, or that's at least the narrative the manager's putting on. But I just like obviously we're all Tigers fans here, so we're going to be biased towards like the club. That's obvious. But I just, from just looking at Galvin, like I just think something like this is just going to stay with him. The fact that he just seems really difficult, or his team around him seems difficult, and the fact that like senior players at the Tigers aren't like best pleased with him, like that's going to travel with them to another club. And I just kind of feel bad that like a 19-year-old kid is going to have this stigma around him just purely because his manager and his like immediate surrounding like support network have just led him down such a it's just been such a terrible plan from them for like a number of months now, I reckon.
I wonder, Steve, if they care or if the manager cares or whether he thought this would be the fallout. He probably did. But like Declan said, like it's a spectacular falling out for a 19-year-old. Whatever you think of him as a Tigers fan, like even if he does end up at another club this year or next year, it's going to be a lot of pressure on that kid.
I think you just hit the nail on the head, Eddie, when using the word care. You know, the manipulation and agendas. Like we opened up and said how tiresome this was and how draining it was. And the thing I find most draining is just the apparent agendas that have just been thrown in our face. Like they're not even being hidden. You know, like for Ben Elias to come out on 360 tonight and say that Isaac Moses, who he's related to, cares for his clients and so much and wants the best for their mental health. He couldn't give a rat's, mate. He's got an agenda with the West Tigers, whether it's with Richo, whether it's Benji Marshall, whether it's with the club, whether it's all of them. And he's using a 19-year-old kid to get the best out of his agenda. He's done it before. He's doing it again. Like, sure, money's part of it. His client's part of it, but agenda's huge. You know, we've got journos coming onto all these shows and writing articles that are just agenda driven. You know, they've got a relationship with a manager or with someone, and they just come in and instead of reporting the story as it is, they report it in a biased perspective to suit their agenda. Yeah, you got club bosses, you know, that have got media profiles, and I'm talking about Phil Gould,
Well,
who come on.
I'll stop you there, Steve, because I was going to raise that. Like, the NRL not going to do anything about it, and he's too smart. But this has been going on for 12 months. He said some outlandish things, like he called him the best teenager ever. He said he would be the highest paid player in the history of the game. He said, I'm obsessed with Lachlan Galvin. So for 12 months, he's been courting him through the media.
Yeah,
And
and
now,
then
of course,
today,
today,
then today, Eddie, he comes out.
he said it's untenable at the Tigers.
Yeah,
Of course he did.
it's absolute manipulation, and it's ridiculous. It's laughable.
Uh, it is laughable. But Declan, let's go to this weekend. Just do you think it was the right decision by Benji Marshall to not play him in first grade?
I mean, like two things with that. In terms of from the Tigers' perspective, like I genuinely do think it was the right thing to do because I just can't believe that like Lachlan Galvin, like I think he said last year that he's one of those like players that he like watches everything, like he's on social media, like you're watching Ever 360. So I have no doubt in my mind that he's seeing all this stuff. So I just surely don't believe that he's not affected by this. And I think that from a team perspective, that's a lot of pressure and such a big game. You know, Easter Monday, it's our first like big home game at Combank. You know, there's going to be lots of people there. It's going to be like a big event, and like he would get booed for sure. There was even people at the ambush event against the Knights that were just going off at him every single time he made a mistake. So like he was kind of wary with some fans already before the decision was even made. So I can't even imagine like what it'd be like now. And then from like Lockie Galvin's perspective, like I think the Tigers have done him a like in, inadvertently done him a favor because I don't think that's good for him. Like the fact that like all the fans are clearly off him at the moment, like that wouldn't be like a good feeling at all. So yeah, I think just from like the club's perspective and Galvin's perspective, I think it was the right thing not to play him. And I think that like someone like Adam Dewey, like although last year found is like injured, I think he's a safe option. We kind of know what to expect from him. I think he can play well enough to get us the win.
I'd love to know if Lockie's actually training with the NRL squad from today, you know, yesterday, today, tomorrow, or whether he's out there running around Lidcombe over with the Magpies boys. I'd love to know how involved he is with the NRL squad at the moment.
Yeah.
Or whether
On
he's just
Tuesday,
been
it
banished.
was, I'll go to you in a sec, Steve. Tuesday, it was pretty much said that he was given the option of speaking in front of the team and he chose to. And I saw Braithen Astor talking about it tonight, and he said it went that badly that they almost had to shut it down. So I don't say that to, I feel sorry for him a little bit in that regard because he is 19 and having to speak in front of senior players when you at that age. But Steve,
I was just going to reply to Nick saying that if he in fact he does play second grade, which I'm not convinced that he will, but if he does play second grade, he will definitely be training with the squad because they do so many opposed sessions against each other. That would be just part of training, but I don't know that he'll actually run out there on
Steve,
Monday.
the next playbook surely from the manager is that mental health grounds he's not playing this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. And we did the pod the other night, and I jumped up and said that I thought Richo hadn't put a foot wrong, and everything he'd done was turned to gold, and more. I think he made his first mistake this week, because I think I disagree with what Declan said. I think the Jerome Luai social media post was really poor. He's the club captain, and I know it wasn't as savage as Taruva's one, but thousands and thousands of people follow everything Jerome Luai says and does, and it just gave an opportunity for others to vent, and the Taruva one followed. And the reason I mentioned Richo is I think the minute they made that press release, he needed to get the whole club together, and just say there's not a word, there's not a post, there is nothing, there is no communication out from the club unless it goes through him, um, around this issue, and that didn't happen. And I think that's where the mental health. So we held the narrative in this situation up until that point. Quite rightly, I think the majority of people were siding with the club. But once that started, and people started to think again, quite rightly, that he's going to be vulnerable to this type of attack. Um, the narrative sort of switched a little bit, and we're not looking as good. I think we've resurrected a little bit too. I think Hooper's article resurrected it a little bit, but I think we lost some ground, and yeah, I think it was the wrong thing.
I do agree, Steve. It's easy in hindsight, right? Like when Jerome posted that, I kind of took a bit of a gasp and thought, holy crap, like he's actually put that out there, but I could see where he's coming from. The thing that I actually like, I don't like the public bashing of Lockie the way, or the public displays of emotion, like what Taruva did with his post either, or his Insta story, but I do like how the players have rallied behind Benji, because Lockie has reportedly come out and said, I'm leaving because I don't feel I've got the coaching structure behind me that's going to elevate my halves game to the next level and take me where I need to go or want to go. But the rest of the boys have stood up. The talk about them standing up to Lockie and shutting it down, and or that whole situation having to be pulled apart before it could get to a conclusion with Lockie addressing the team, that just shouts out to me that the players have got Benji's back and they don't believe Lockie's speaking from a place that reflects the rest of the side. And I take a lot of enjoyment and hope out of that. That everyone's got Benji's back. And talking about mental health and responsibilities there too. What about Benji? Like if he's got so much pressure on him this season, right? The team has to perform, and there's been a lot said about Lockie not being picked this week. And I know Matty Johns came out and said he thinks it's a gross mistake that Galvin wasn't picked this weekend. If Lockie's in your best 17, you've got to pick him in your 17. And I understand that point of view. And Benji's got his neck on the line, but I think what he's done ethically is the right decision, playing Lockie in reserves. I actually thought they might rest Lockie completely. Like you said, Eddie, he probably needs a bit of a mental health break himself, or a week off out of the spotlight. He probably just needs to stay at home. As much as he probably wants to lace up and play footy, he probably needs at least a week away just to let everything digest a bit, because it's a lot for a 19-year-old. I know he's got a manager and he's got his family around him, but yeah, it really is like a bomb this week, isn't it? It's just it's shrapnel everywhere. Everyone's getting hit.
Just on that social media, Declan, last point I'll say is that Taruva actually, his story was meant for his close friend, so it wasn't meant to go public. And someone obviously sent it to a mate who's then leaked it. So I don't think it's still the wrong thing to do. It's a lesson for him to show that anything you put out there can get leaked, but that wasn't meant to be public. Jerome's one I probably had less of a problem with because I think he's got the gravitas to do that. I mean, won 4 premierships, and he's put out similar stuff in the past. I know he's winded up fans after he's won Origin games, and that's in line with the sort of character he is. That wasn't such a direct shot. The Taruva one was obviously meant to be private, but did you thought that one crossed the line, Declan?
The Taruva one, yeah, it definitely. Like I think I'd heard that yeah, it was accidental, but I didn't actually like. I wasn't sure if that was just in my head or not. But yeah, that one was like because you can only take it like one way. It was the fact that like he was clearly having a pot shot at Galvin. But the Luai one, I think that I don't have a problem with it just purely because I think it could be seen in a positive way of just him trying to like get in front of it from like a club leadership perspective, just to show that like the team is actually united in this. Because like I said in the group chat that like even though the players have gotten some backlash, like how much better is this compared to in 2017 when we found out that Aaron Woods was trying to like not only leave, but then also he was trying to convince the other like, members of the Big Four to leave as well to join the Bulldogs. So at least
captain.
now, and he was captain. Like at least now like the players are united under Benji Marshall, and it shows that there's some sort of culture, and they actually care about the jersey they're wearing. And yes, I agree with Steve. Like I think that like we should all be singing from the same hymn sheet, and I'm probably just a little bit too old to like be part of that kind of age group that just like makes everything via social media posts. So I don't really do that. So I wouldn't personally do that myself. But I think is what you said. It just kind of is part of Luai's personality. Like he's probably not going to change it at this point in his career. And like I personally wouldn't do it, but I didn't really have a massive problem with it. It kind of just reaffirmed that the playing group or the senior players at least are like kind of like together on this one, which is good to see.
Yeah, look, I get the whole thing about it. It does galvanize the team. Like we'll talk about this later or Friday, I suppose. But I think we'll smash Para on the weekend. I think we'll be so pumped up and together. But the point I think we're missing that I think is so important is it should have been stopped. All communication should have been stopped. There shouldn't have been anything, no matter what you think about how severe the posts were. Like I get the privacy one, but still it went out there and it got out. And the problem is it's not necessarily the post, it's not necessarily the person who put the post together. It's the person who reads the post and then reacts to the post. And some of the maniacs out there that write the most hateful, ridiculous stuff. And it just builds momentum and becomes an absolute frenzy. So the club should have bunkered down and just said not a thing, and because it's caused a lot of angst to Galvin, but also to the club.
Yeah, Nick, I've read a lot of the just posts on forums the last couple of days, and in the past when this sort of dramas unfold with players, a lot of the angers from fans has sort of been directed towards administration or the club, whereas it's clearly not the case this time. I see a lot of the fans very happy with Shane Richardson and happy that the players seem to be backing the coach, which is good. The only thing I'm sort of weighing up in my mind is, and obviously I don't want to question Shane Richardson because he knows what he's doing, but the press release he put out Monday, and we did the podcast Monday night, it was quite inflammatory, saying, it was the highest ever offer we made to a junior, and we're disappointed, but we move on. Could he have potentially massaged this and got through the season without this big firestorm? Or was it the fact that Isaac Moses came in and said, we're not even going to review the offer that forced his hand?
Yeah, knowing Richo, we've all spoken about how bullish he is. So I've got no doubt that he didn't appreciate the way Isaac Moses or whoever Galvin's direct manager is that came in and spoke like that and laid down the law in front of him. I think Richo probably just got on the front foot. And I'm sure Richo's very well aware of the history that Galvin has had, asking for releases and the niggling that was going on last season about, asking for release. All those rumours that I was trying not to believe that obviously were most likely true, right? So I'm never going to doubt Richo. Maybe he did make a bit of a boo-boo, Steve, this last 24 hours or so, but I'm not going to doubt him. He's taken a few clubs up from the bottom, and I don't think he's going to leave until he gets the West Tigers into place that they need to be either. So I'll back Richo. You know what? If we have to release Lockie in the next few weeks, so be it. I don't know if Richo would do that. I think we're in a very strong position where we can probably use him for a bit of leverage if it comes to that. I'd love to think that I don't know if Lachlan will end up going to the Bulldogs. I got a feeling with his junior affiliation to the Eels and his love for power as a kid, he might end up there. But wouldn't it be great if he goes to the Bulldogs and we get someone like Stephen Crichton in return? Wouldn't that be a nice little return there?
I think you're dreaming there, Nick.
I'm always dreaming.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the West Tigers podcast. Don't forget, if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on the West Tigers podcast forum. It's free to join and you can contribute directly to the podcast on the forum. Just head to westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
I think that in terms of the statement by the Tigers, I think the context and the timeline is really important. So it's reported that the meeting happened on Thursday, but then on Monday, when Michael Chammas dropped the article, and Danny Wiley, I think, when they dropped the article, at the very bottom of it, where it said that he rejected the Tigers' offer, it actually said that he expressed to the club that he was actually happy at the club and he just wanted to go to November 1 to see what his options, which was a lie, because that's not what actually happened in the meeting. He said that and this was confirmed after by Chammas, that he was gone. Like, he told the club that he was definitely gone. So that article was wrong, and Chammas putting that out there to everyone, it just gave the wrong impression of what was actually happening. So I don't blame Richardson just to nip it on the bud, say no, that's not what happened. He didn't say that he just wants to go to November 1. He said he's gone no matter what. He wouldn't even look at the contract offer. I mean, that is just outrageous to think about, and it just reminded me so much of Tedesco's contract situation in 2017, where 1 week you'd get a kind of positive article about how maybe he's going to stay, and then he's linked to this player, or linked to this team, or he's definitely gone, and then you just got the sense that Isaac Moses was just kind of keeping the Tigers on the hook a little bit, just being interested enough where the fans think he might still stay, but then let other clubs know that he's available. And I just think that just dragged on, and it was just absolutely crushing when he was already gone and he'd already made the decision that he was leaving months before it was announced publicly. I think that the club coming out and just saying, no, he's definitely gone, we need to move on. And I think that took the Galvin camp by surprise. I don't think that I think they kind of thought that they would kind of keep it a secret. So to avoid the kind of scrutiny it's caused. But I think it's good that Richardson did it now as opposed to waiting until sooner, closer to November 1, because I think if he waited till then, I think the fans would have been angrier that they didn't take action sooner.
It's interesting, Steve, because I agree with the majority of our fans that think it was a very strong move, and potentially Isaac Moses and Galvin Camp didn't see that coming, and it's obviously been some fallout for them that they probably weren't expecting. But is there more fallout for us? Could we have known this and potentially kept it quiet until the end of the season and gone on with Lockie playing at 6? The team's going pretty well, and all of a sudden, who knows if he's going to play again this year? That's a fairly big. That's the thing I'm sort of weighing up in my head and wondering. I'm sure Richo wouldn't do things differently, but wondering if they could have got through the end of the year, or whether there's actually been stuff going on for 2 or 3 weeks and this was always going to come to a head.
Yeah, well, I just said that I think Richo made a mistake this week, but I'm definitely not off the guy, and I trust him emphatically. And he is bullish, but I would think that if he felt that he had to come out and make that call and draw a line in the sand at that point and bring this situation to a head, I trust him enough to think that there would have been reasons for that, and that he would have knowledge and experiences that led him to do that. I still think, and I don't want to harp on it, I'm not meaning to harp on it, I'm only saying it because you've asked. I still think we should have, and possibly still could, come out of this quite well. I think the fact that those social media posts went out there and the attention has turned to Galvin's mental health, and the Rugby League Players Association getting involved and putting pressure on the club from that perspective, now changes the narrative and changes our level of strength. Because I think before that, we definitely could have said, righto Canterbury, righto Para, you can have Galvin where we accept the fact you're not going to be here, but it's going to be like for like. So we want kick out, or we want player X or player Y. I don't think we're in that level of strength anymore because of that the health issue. Um, Hopefully we can get that back because we can't just let him go. There's no way we can just say, righto, off you go and get nothing for it. We've got to get a majorly good player for him.
I mean, just with the NRL trading, I just don't remember any situation where like a distressed player who wants out the club wants out, and then the club he goes to sends anyone back. Like I know we say that we've got Galvin, this great young player, but like in my mind, I think he's already decided where he's going to go. I'm like, no, I think it's the Eels. I think he's going to go to the Eels. I think it makes sense because Mitchell Moses is there. They'll give him a boatload of money. And so it kind of ticks off those two boxes. So yeah, it's just a tough one. I just can't really see like what player, unless like the Eels release Dylan Brown to go to the Knights, and then the Knights release a player to us, like maybe like that, like because then you can kind of see how it benefits all three clubs. So maybe it's from that perspective. But in terms of the Eels, I don't really see anyone that we would want that that they would give up. So it's interesting to see. But just on Eddie's point, like if the club waited till the end of the year to announce this, and then like we scrape into the top 8, then he signs with someone else in advance, and then we know he's leaving. Like, does that kind of put a spanner in the works in terms of like the progression of the team? Like, don't you reckon it's better just to make this decision now, so we have more time to like either find out if Latu's good enough to play 6 or recruit someone who is? I just don't see if Galvin just finished the year as normal and we finished scraping 8. Like, I just don't really see the long-term benefit in that.
Only history will be able to tell that, Declan. Like, for me, scraping into the 8 is massive for this club.
Yeah, but
if we had to finish bottom 2 now, and I'm not saying it's directly because of Galvin not playing, but because of this fallout, if we fall out and finish second last, and we could have had him, for the rest of this year, even if it's only for this year, and kept it quiet, that would be a spectacular disaster.
But then, what are you doing for next year? Then, like, I get that. Yes, you got to like win every game. You got to pick your best team possible.
We don't need any new halves. That's the thing. Like, it's not an urgent thing. We've actually got Latu Fainu, Bud Sullivan's on loan, so it's not like, I suppose, DCE where Manly urgently need a half because they know he's leaving.
But like, it's not 100% that like Latu has his own concerns as well. Like, he hasn't really been in that position. And I'm like that. I think that Latu hopefully will be the long-term 6, but like he hasn't really played that much first grade, and then he's got the injury problems as well. And then like if Galvin is there the whole season, like don't you reckon it's just better to like rip the Band-Aid off now?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the answer will only be, unfortunately, how they play Monday and how they play for the rest of the season. I'm hoping the response is they're unified and they continue to play like they are. And if they're tracking at 50% wins, it'll be a great season. Steve?
Yeah, look, I just think, and I'm just guessing, but I just think that if you look at the players' reaction to this situation, and it's fairly unique. I don't remember a playing group being like. Usually they get around guys when they're leaving. They get around them and wish them all the best and support them. I don't remember this level of anger towards a player who's he's not renewing his contract. So I would think from that things weren't all that rosy to start with. That would be my guess, and that for that reason, I think you're right, Declan. It had to be done now because maybe Galvin wasn't getting on with others, and it was just going to get worse as the season progressed, knowing that he wasn't going to stay anyway. Um, just a guess based on what I've seen last couple of days.
Eddie, just a quick one. Your comment saying you don't know what the ideal next move would be. I don't know if there is an ideal or correct next move. Everyone has so many different opinions on this, and all so-called experts, not us. I'm not talking about a podcast. I'm talking about media personalities and journalists and, the guys on 360 and, Matty Johns, etc., James Graham, like they've all got a different opinion. What's the correct move for Galvin? What's the correct move for West Tigers? But this is where I'm going to put all my faith in Shane Richardson as the, cunning operator that he is, that he will make the best move for the club going forward. So, yeah, big times coming.
And just a question for everyone. I mean, this is something I've went back and forth with in my head because there's no doubt that Galvin, like he's a great player. He's probably, if all things go well for him, he's probably going to play Origin at some point. So this isn't a situation where like, he's leaving the club. They're, like the fans all turn on him, like suddenly he's no good. No, that's not the situation. But in saying that, this whole ordeal has just been so difficult from even before he debuted. It's been exhausting, honestly. Like he's got like Isaac Moses as the manager. It seems like his support system, which is really difficult to deal with. There are all these concerns that like he might end up in the back row anyway because of his like body size. Like he would have cost a lot of money to re-sign. Like he might end up in the forwards. And now it's come out that, he's got a little bit of a problem like gelling with the senior players. Like, is it possible that although like, he's a great player and like maybe Latu won't be as good, but the fact that like he's leaving and we don't have to like we're not committing ourselves to a player that might not have been that great of a cultural fit. Not saying he's a bad cultural player, but in terms of a cultural fit, it might not have worked out that well. So is this maybe like we just have to look at the positives and maybe we've kind of not dodged the bullet, but like Latu might end up being like the better choice, kind of how Terrell May was a better option than Stefano. Like I was like gutted to lose Stefano, but now if you look back, that actually worked out really well for us. Like, could this be a similar situation with Finu and Latu in the halves?
I wouldn't rule that out, Declan. It's just very, very early to tell. And I think it'll be, like you said, he's an outstanding player, Galvin. But, there were signs the last, and even I think, like Nick might have referenced it earlier, if you read a lot of forums after games, even after some of the trial games, some of the fans get infuriated with some of the things he was doing this year. And yes, he's setting up tries and his numbers are good, but he's also demanding a lot of the ball and cutting off runners sometimes and running across field a little bit. So I'll be I don't give a stuff which club he's going to do next. I hope they go, terrible, but it'd be very ironic, like if he moves clubs and he's stuck playing to some rigid structure, which Benji has actually let him basically play free since he's debuted.
Like it'll all work out for him. He's a bloody good footballer, and wherever he goes, he's going to recover from this and have a stellar career. But I do agree with you, Declan. I think Ladu Fanu could be the guy. I said the other night, and I believe that. I've seen enough of him to think he's going to be a good player, but he's got a long way to go. Yeah, obviously with confidence and consistency and just believing that he's a first grader, and that takes a while. My real concern, and it's just, it may never eventuate, but where it could really go pear-shaped for us is if this is the beginning of a decimation, right? Because we've got Talon de Silva, we've got Dream Buller, both with the same agent. Now, I know we've got Dream Buller locked up for 2 more years, I think, after this one, but we've only got Talon de Silva for one. If we lose 75% of our future spine um, because of this bloke, then that truly is a disaster. I hope it doesn't happen. No reason for me to think it's coming, but geez, that would be bad.
I mean, De Silva's managed by Mario Tartak, so he's not managed by Isaac
Oh, okay.
Moses.
Sorry,
So
that's
that's
my apologies. I thought he was.
so yeah, he's managed by the same people that manage the Finu brothers and Kit and Luke Lilly. So I don't think if I was to take a guess, I don't think that this changes much with Silva. I think there was some stuff on the forums about someone like he knows the family. Yeah, so that like take that with a grain of salt. But I think we'll still manage to keep him. I think the Buller thing like that's really interesting because um I don't know, Buller just seems like such a like for lack of a better word, such a good person. Like I just couldn't imagine him like doing that. And it does seem like he's got a good. Like, obviously, not saying that Galvin's not a good person, but I don't think he would be as easily swayed to leave the club that gave him an opportunity. Maybe that's just me being naive, and he could be gone as well. But yeah, who knows? But fingers crossed he doesn't leave.
Nick, do you think this is, it's hard to say it's going to have a positive or negative impact on our season, but do you think it changes things dramatically either way, or you need to see a couple of games first before judging on that?
I actually think, like Steve said, I think we're going to come out on Monday absolutely fired up. I think the fact that Lockie won't be there, and I'm sure that he's not going to be, up in the stands watching the team. I don't think he's going to be showing his face, but I think the team's going to get a massive reception when they run out in the field. I think this is really going to bring all the fans together. We talked about the players getting behind Benji and all rallying around each other the last 24, 48 hours. I think it's going to do exactly the same thing for the fans. I actually don't think we're going to be lacking too much, to be honest, in our side that runs out on Monday. And I know you guys are going to be talking about the game on Friday night about the Monday game. But, Adam Dewey, he's played a bit of 7. He rates himself as a 7. He's coming off contract as well, so he's got a point to prove. He did play 7 in that trial at Leichhardt against Para, a couple of months ago and was very good. He's a lot different to Lockie. He's probably got a better, longer kicking game than what Lockie does. He can certainly put up some towering bombs, so it's definitely a different dynamic that he'll bring. I think the whole team's going to just come out firing on Monday. As for long term, is Lockie going to really be out for a long period of time? Is he going to be around for the next few weeks? Who knows? These are all unknowns. I know that there's a theory I think I heard might have been on, I can't remember which pod it was today, that Lockie might be playing reserves for 2, 3, 4 weeks until he starts to gain a bit of trust back, or whether he reestablishes that relationship with coaching staff, with the playing group again, whether he can come back into the team. Depends if he's going to be around for the rest of the season or what happens with his future. But there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty. I hope it doesn't derail our season, because we've got off to a decent start. We haven't played a lot of teams that are expected to play finals footy yet, but we're doing okay, and it's only early days.
Then I was surprised that Luai's wearing the 6 jersey when he was named. I'm not sure if that's going to change anything at all, but I thought it was interesting that instead of just putting Dewey to 6, Luai is going to be playing that. Does that mean that Luai is going to get the majority of the ball, and then Adam Dewey's going to kind of revert to what Luai was doing with Galvin? I just think that's going to be really interesting, because are we going to see Luai with more quality touches? And then if so, what does that look like in terms of attack? Would we potentially maybe look a bit better? And then when Lachlan's fit, does that mean he's going to play 7 and Luai's going to stay at 6? It's just, I'm keen to see what that looks like.
I think your last question's the really interesting one, Declan. What's it going to look like when Ladu Fainu comes into the team? But I'm predicting that for the next few weeks, Luai's going to revert back to the role he played at Penrith, and play the running game and eyes up footy. And Dewey is going to be more controlling, play more the controlling hand over the next few weeks. I think, I've been saying, Luai hasn't been that dynamic. I think he's going to do that now. I think he's left that to Galvin. I think he's been very generous in leaving it for Galvin. But I think he's going to go back to his role that he had at Penrith, and you'll see him eyes up running the ball a lot. But I don't think he can do that when Fainu comes back, because I don't think Fainu's got the experience.
Declan, you were going to say something? No, you weren't?
I mean, no, I don't have anything to say. Steve just put it too well. I don't have anything else to add.
The first?
Yeah, I mean, it said, Nick, in the article that I saw a Latu Fainu article today, because the journos, they're like seagulls around a chip at the moment. They're looking for anyone related to the story. And he came out with all the quotes you should as a team player, that he loves Benji's coaching, and he wants to do whatever is best for the team, and he wants to play in the halves and whatnot. But it was split in there that he could only be out for a few more weeks. So it'd be very interesting, that timeline, whether Galvin is back in the mix by then or whether he's out of the club. It's just very hard to know either way.
Yeah, there's a lot to play out, isn't there? Yeah, like I said, I don't know which way it's going to go. Yeah, the next few weeks will be very interesting. Hopefully Latu isn't out for too much longer. He's had pretty rotten run with injuries. Did he come to us injured as well? Was he having issues with his hammies when he came to the club? Or did this all happen after he joined?
Yeah, he was having hamstring issues. It did. I can't even remember. He was on minute restrictions at the start of last season, in New South Wales Cup, so he wasn't playing the full game. He would come off, and then, I think when did he make his debut? I can't remember. But then, he redid his hamstring, missed a big chunk of last season, came back, and for his debut, I think when we played Manly, that's when he came back. He had that try assist, and then I think he either got concussed or he had another injury, then disease, and then I think he played in the last game against Para. So he had a really stop-start season last year as well.
Yeah.
And I think his time at Manly was a little bit similar as well in terms of hamstring injuries and other injuries. So that's a bit of a thing to keep an eye on. Hopefully he gets a bit of a better run now that we actually need to rely on him to play more first grade in the halves.
Because I remember Gary mentioning that there were bigger raps on Latu as a junior footballer than there were on Galvin. And at some point, that's obviously flipped because Galvin was given the nod to start, at the beginning of last year. I just wonder whether that coincided with Latu's injury issues. But there's obviously a lot of potential with Latu. So, he's shown glimpses of it. But I'd love to see him play some regular NRL. Hopefully he gets that chance soon.
I mean, if I'm really... if you've got your optimist hat on, so I think Eddie probably doesn't, but because some people were saying that because Latu wasn't 100% fit in the preseason of 2024, that's what gave Galvin the inside running to debut. And then obviously when he debuted, he just went from strength to strength. But there was all these rumors that the club actually wanted to move Galvin to 13 and give the 6 jersey to Latu anyway, just to accommodate all of them. Now, obviously, with Galvin's kind of attitude towards the Tigers, he wasn't really in that position where he'd be willing to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see, long term, who's going to be better of Latu and Galvin, because Latu is more of your traditional 6 in terms of his speed, his power, and at
the moment, Declan, the bottom line is Galvin's a proven first grader. Latu is not, I would say.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's through lack of opportunity, and also those injuries have been frustrating. But Steve, do you think there's any chance of a repair here for Galvin? I'd like to think there is. Apparently, tomorrow, Appy, Jerome, and Shane Richardson and Benji are all going to speak. So I reckon that's a good idea, and they're probably going to come around a little bit and try and, I don't know if they're going to put an arm around him, so to speak, but I think that's probably the angle they're going to have to take in the short term.
Look, I would love to think it's repairable, but if I'm honest, I don't think it is. I think what's happened in the last 24 hours especially, there's no coming back from that. If you're asking me my tip, it's that he'll be gone. He'll be at another club in a month's time. That's what I believe. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they fix it because we are stronger with him in the mix, right? But I don't think that can happen.
I think, Steve, you could be right. I just think it's going to be difficult in a month's time. If you're saying he's at another club, Richo's not going to let him go for nothing.
No, but that's where Richo, I think, will cut his losses and try to get a win out of it. That's why I said what I said before. I think he'll let him go if we can get a player that would. So I agree. I think you said it, Ed. I think we don't need another halfer. This stuff in the papers at the moment about chasing Adam Reynolds or Cherry Evans or whatever. We don't need that. Why would we want to block Ladu Fanu again? Right? If we're going to give him his chance, give him his chance. If we need a player, we need an edge back row, a centre, that maybe a lock. That's what we need. So if they're going to let him go, if it's untenable and going to let him go, then I'm sure Richo will try to get someone of quality in one of those positions.
So I say we let Lockie go to Para. That lets Dylan Brown go to the Knights, and that sends Bradman Best over to the Tigers.
Mate, I say let him go to Canterbury and take kick out.
Yeah, and throw in the young half Woods or Sexton or something like that. Throw in something else. But he's a tough negotiator, Richo. So that's the thing that I know it's infuriated us in the past when Pasco's let go players early and we'd get nothing in return and it would just, we'd be 2 players short halfway through a season. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's just hardball and he's here for the rest of the season. I don't think he'll be here next season at all, but I still think there's a chance. Maybe I'm being naive again. It's very early in this story. I still think there's a chance he could come back into the side in the short term, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, Declan. You think so or not?
Yeah, I do. I think Galvin just seems like the kind of kid that, he kind of follows the crowd. You know what I mean? He's very... I don't think he would put up a stink. And I think that, if the press conference goes well tomorrow, then, I think that parties can kind of like, play happy until it's resorted. I think the problem is like the manager and the parents and like the family. I think that's where the problem with like Galvin coming back is going to be like, like what are the leaks to the media going to be like? Are they going to be like saying stuff like bad things about the Tigers, then like invoke a reaction from the player? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff is more what I'm worried about. But like at the end of the day, like he's a contracted player, and if like Dewey gets injured, touch wood on Monday, then like he'll have to play. Like it's just that simple. And then like everyone just has to like make the most of it.
A lot depends on Monday, doesn't it, Steve? If they come out and have a thumping win.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this is going to blow over because you'll still be there and be there in the background. But if they have a thumping win, then you can run an unchanged team. Cronulla.
yeah, you can. What do we say? Winning solves everything. I don't know, man. I'm guessing. Like we're all just sitting here guessing we can't do anything. But I'm just thinking to myself as Declan was talking. Then I'm just thinking to myself, how do you come back from standing up at a player meeting and being told to shut the f up and sit down, by a senior player in your playing group? How do you come back from that? And how does the sentiment from the others get repaired? I just cannot see that being mended. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Declan. You can, they're professionals and maybe they just need to do what they have to do. But geez, that's hard to do at this level, at this level of, antagonism.
I get antagonised by you and Gary every week, Steve, and I'm still here. Maybe I'm a bit more mature than Lockie.
Only just. I've had a chat with Joel.
Speaking of Joel, Declan, have you heard the saying, a dead clock's right twice a day?
I think it's a broken clock's right twice a day.
Well, I'm going to call him a dead clock. Because,
Is that the best you can do in saying that Joel was right? So the very best you can do is to call him a dead clock. Is that right?
I'm giving him a rap, Steve. I'm saying he was spot on. He came on Monday night.
Don't buy me any birthday presents, mate.
With his beard, looking like Richo, all bullish and pumping the chest out, saying he won't play for the Tigers Tuesday or he won't be named. And I basically laughed in his face and said, Joel, settle down. And he was right. So, Declan, that's why I talked about the dead clock, because it's not often Joel's right, but he was spot on with this one.
He was. I think I said it as well, and I think you gave me the laughing emoji. I think you said you're just happy I wasn't coach. So, yeah.
See, you like to refer to our chat, which I try and keep private, so I'm not going to mention anything. You weren't on the podcast on Monday, Nick?
Yeah.
You were going to say something or not?
No, I wasn't. No. All good. No. Continue.
All right. Well, we will preview the game Friday because it's a long build-up to this game, and probably we'll have to speak about this again because I'm sure something will change in the next couple of days. But, Steve, you seemed almost as bullish as Joel that you think it's going to be a big victory Monday.
I think we are going to come out and absolutely smash them. I know Mitchell Moses is back, but Mitchell Moses, like I heard Lomax been interviewed a couple of weeks ago, and it was like he might make it for the game against the Tigers, but maybe they'll rest him for the bye and come back the week after that. So he's got to be, if he plays, like I still don't think he's a cert to play, but I don't think he's going to be 100%. I don't think he's going to tear us apart. The famous last words, but I think we are going to be so fired up. I think we will just, our line speed, our enthusiasm, our collision, everything is just going to be full on. I think we'll smash them. I reckon we'll beat them by 20 plus.
And plus, like with Moses, it's a foot injury as well, so you'd have to imagine that would limit his conditioning. Like obviously, like if he's playing, then he's going to be fit enough to play. But Lomax is out as well, so who's going to pass the ball to, So yeah, I agree with Steve. I think that we should be up for this game, and like even against the Knights, like our floor was so much higher because our forwards were just bashing them. Like they should be able to theoretically do the same thing to the Eels pack because there's not really many superstars I've seen from them at the moment.
Yeah, great timing with Moses coming back. I was talking about before the dynamic moving Dewey into the halves. The other one too, moving Dewey out of the centres, is bringing in Brent Naden. Like, what a great opportunity to see Naden come back in after the horrible dislocation that he had in the trial. We're all talking about how he'd looked like he'd turned a corner a bit the way he was playing. I think he's one player that will really benefit from some quick line speed on Monday. And if we can get some quick play the balls and quick attack going, he could be very dangerous down that edge too. So really looking forward to watching Nato in his comeback game this week.
Probably be a full house out there at CommBank on Monday, Steve. And I was going to say, you've pretty much got the man of the moment, not the villain of the moment, but the potential, the next man in the future. You're going to be talking to him on Monday.
Yeah, we've got an absolute coup for the ambush event that's on Monday pre-game. So we are at the members bar or the Northern Bar. It's got a couple of names. Anyway, it's the bar next to the Gate B entrance at CommBank, and we're doing an event from 2:30 on Monday. That's when gates open. So if you're going to come along, come through the gates and come straight to the bar. To the ambush event, because we have Latu Fainu and Jarrell Skelton as our guests at the event, which is absolutely fantastic. And we thank the West Tigers Club so much for giving us those players for a little bit of time. And we'll be interviewing them at the event, obviously. And we'll also have a Yachty's quiz, and we've got some Raw Store vouchers to give away. And if we have time, we'll have a bit of a podcast chat as well. But without doubt, the highlight is going to be interviewing and having a Q&A with Latu Fainu and Jarrell Skelton.
That's a pretty good pickup, Steve. And you know what? I'm ashamed to say I've never actually been to an ambush event, but I am coming on Monday to my very first ever. So I'm really looking forward to that. Gary did mention that when I attend on Monday, apparently I'm going to be a punching bag and people are allowed to take free punches at me. I just want to say, I believe that is workplace harassment, Steve.
Strange as it seems, Nick, it's not about you.
Before you cut in, Steve, I was just going to continue. I do have the RLPA, which is the Rugby League Podcasters Association, investigating yours and Gary's behaviour. So I just want to let you know that you are being investigated. So, and I'm bringing my 9-year-old on Monday, so best behaviour. No punching, please, in front of my son. Thank you.
So Latu Fainu and Jarrell Skelton are our guests, and we look forward to that, and looking forward to seeing Joel and Declan and Gary and Eddie come up on stage for the podcast, and anyone else who turns up, I suppose.
That's a big one, Steve. Are you and Gary gonna give Latu a text now that he's the new first choice half? I wouldn't put it past Gary, to be honest, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think Gary's already got his cheat sheet ready to go.
So, Declan, I don't think I've been on a podcast for you for a few weeks, but the last one I listened to that I wasn't on, someone referred to you as the Tony Sukar of the podcast. I thought that wasn't a big rap. I don't know who said it, but it made me laugh.
He played really well against the Broncos, so I'm just going to assume that that's a compliment. Like, I'm just someone who comes in last minute. But I'll do a job. I won't win any matches for you, but I won't lose them either. So I suppose.
Well, we're getting up to 390. I know Joel doesn't like us saying the number anymore, Steve, but this is 393. So me personally, I'm getting up towards Cameron Smith like numbers, around 400 games.
Maybe and that's fair enough. And I have to say, I thought your performance the other night was Cameron Smith like until it all ended up being 100% wrong. But while it was live, it was good.
It was. It's been a long few days, boys. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Friday, Nick, Gary doesn't like missing podcasts, so he had family thing on tonight, so he'll definitely be on Friday. We might get Joel because he'll be cock a hoop. He'll be like a cat that found the cream. So I'm sure Joel will want to be on Friday, and I've had enough, so I won't be on Friday, Nick.
Joel will have to read Yachty's quiz too. I do have that, but we'll keep that for Friday. So Joel, back to you, man.
All right. Thank you, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.